Thank you all so much. I'm so excited to be here and privileged to have the honor to speak with you all. I think one of the really exciting things when we had the opportunity to give this talk was there's a lot of things that you can learn very quickly when you join an enterprise research company. And I think that's been part of what we hope to cover today is how we've uncovered some of these insights and gathered some information that we want to share more broadly. And so with that, oh, there we go. Aha. Ooh. It's a finicky clicker. Awesome. So today what we're going to start with is we'll start with a customer story. I think all of us here are invested in users, and so what better way to navigate the talk than to ground ourselves in a customer. We'll understand our customers and our users and some of the difference between those two things, why user feedback is important, and then Warren will go ahead and walk us through 3 steps towards strategy. And so let's go ahead and talk through an example. Ironically, when I was thinking about this talk, I'm used to giving presentations on Zoom. We've all moved into remote, and more often than not, anytime I'm doing anything, it's over my computer. And one of the things you may not know is that the Zoom customer support portal was actually built on the ServiceNow platform. It's something that's very exciting for me being an employee at ServiceNow, as I get to tell fun facts to my family about customers that they may not know are ServiceNow, and I'd be like, ha, that's built on our platform. That's the company I work for. But that's one of the biggest benefit of ServiceNow is that we give our customers the power to white label and create an experience that they want for their end users. And to do that, they have a team working on the back end using all of our technology to create this user experience for their end users. So with that means that our job as researchers becomes a little bit more layered because we need to ensure that we're talking to the right person across the enterprise. And so who is the customer at Zoom? Well, it depends on who you ask, right? So if I was to go to CJ Desai, who is our president and chief operating officer, his customer is the CIO, the chief information officer, the person who has the funding to choose ServiceNow across any of the other platforms that they're deciding between. If I was to talk to our sales or our customer outcomes teams, that's the platform owner. That's the next level down. That's the person who's actually making decisions on what's next with ServiceNow. All the new Gen AI capabilities. That platform owner is trying to decide whether or not that's something they can administer on the platform for their company. But, as all of you are familiar with, the customer does not always equal the user. And this is something that when you're working with cross-functional stakeholders, sometimes this is a different conversation, and you have to figure out how to navigate that to tell your product stakeholders that we need to be targeting a specific user. We want to make sure that we're building the product with the user in mind, so we need to be very specific when we're talking about who we're trying to reach in the enterprise. And so when we think about administration, the user there is an admin. It's a person who's pretty tech savvy. They're the ones that are building workflows in Flow Designer. They know about business rules and scripting because they're putting out these amazing user interfaces, but they're a much more technically savvy person. And the products they use on ServiceNow are very different than if we were to talk to a different user. This could also be a release manager. This is somebody who might be coordinating when an upgrade's coming. They need to make sure that whatever code they're pushing out isn't going to break something, because that never ends well. You don't want to have a down service. It's not a good situation. Versus when we start to move into development, so this is actually building applications on the ServiceNow platform. That's one of the biggest benefits that we have is we have a very flexible, powerful platform that our customers can leverage in multiple different ways. And so for these folks, an architect or a developer, they're using a different set of tools. So again, if you're in that space, you want to make sure that you're talking to the right persona. And then finally, all of this is in service of who the people are that are using our tools for their end job. So this is our agent persona, our CSM persona. So when you get on the call with Zoom saying, hey, I have an outage, something's not working, the CSM agent is working on the back end in our ServiceNow configured solution, trying to triage that fix for you as quick as they can, because that's how they're measured, is they want to be as fast and productive as possible. Similarly, there's an IT agent for anyone who's ever got locked out of your computer. Maybe you forgot your password. done it before. If you get on a call with an IT agent, similar workflow, but a different scenario. Maybe an IT agent has a different service level agreement compared to a customer service agent who's trying to triage things quickly to maintain the status of their brand. So again, just being very specific on who you're trying to speak with and making sure that you have your stakeholders bought in on who you're targeting for your specific outcomes. And to add the final layer of complexity for our role in an enterprise is all of this is in service of an employee or a customer. So again, when I started the story, some of you may have actually visited the Zoom portal and didn't realize that ServiceNow was the functionality that was powering that platform on the back end. For anyone who's visited maybe an employee portal, again, configured by a ServiceNow admin or developer, you may not recognize that ServiceNow is the solution that's driving that workflow for you. And so it's a really interesting dynamic of us having to navigate the various layers and levels of users across the enterprise to make sure that we're always putting the user at the center of whatever we're doing. So the customer ecosystem at Zoom, I spoke through a lot of different people. So that might be a well-resourced team. That might be a team that has a big investment in ServiceNow, and they have all of these different players that are handling different roles, different jobs, different responsibilities. Again, maybe using our IT, our CSM, those different workflows, versus potentially thinking through a smaller customer, somebody who's a little bit more narrow. And why do we care about that user feedback? Why is it so important for us to focus on that? When we compare, these different roles have different jobs or different ways of working that they're engaging within the platform. So as I mentioned, that platform owner, they're leading the platform strategy, vision, and roadmap. Again, they're forecasting. They're planning out, okay, I have a set budget. How am I going to use those resources? I'm making decisions between, do I enhance with Gen AI or do I invest in a different area of opportunity? They're maximizing the use of the platform capabilities. They need to show their value, their ROI to their investors, to that CIO who's actually in charge of determining what is the resources going forward. They're coordinating with architects, developers, business owners to ensure that they're delivering the new capabilities. They have to coordinate with that team. If they are planning an upgrade, they need to have visibility into what's coming. Versus the IT agent, again, very different way of working. IT agents are receiving, reviewing, and gathering information as quickly as possible. They want to get to ticket to ticket to ticket to be as quick and efficient as they can. They're resolving those employee cases in a timely fashion based on, again, those service level agreements. They're documenting solutions, processes, and workarounds. So maybe putting together a solution in a knowledge base article that they then publish on the portal so that you don't even have to go to an agent, you can just self-solve. So again, very different levels and very different ways of working. So it's important for us to articulate that to our product stakeholders so that when we're building with that in mind. And one of the big opportunities within an enterprise is that patterns of work exist. And you can start to see, okay, even though they might be different, there may be some overlap between certain personas that we should try to maximize so that that user who's traversing across the platform doesn't feel like they're using different solutions when they jump from a flow designer to an administration tool, because that's one of their roles. One of their responsibilities is around administration. So we need to build with a cohesive pattern in mind. And so as I mentioned, it's really important for us to be advocates. We are the ones that are closest to the user, and we need to be the voice of that user in any opportunity that we can. Elevate that to our product stakeholders so that we know that we're always designing with that user in mind. We want to deliver those product experiences that solve for the bulk of user needs. So again, thinking about the majority as much as we can instead of those niche potential one-off use cases. And if we only focus on those well-resourced teams, like the ones that I mentioned from Zoom that had a pretty big team, we may start doing some siloing or creating things based on a specific person as opposed to identifying those patterns that exist across the enterprise. So we want to make sure that we're always thinking about how we might reach a variety or a spectrum of customers and different user bases so that we can be holistic in our approach. And again, different types of users have very different jobs, but if we can start to identify patterns, that makes us even more powerful in the way that we deliver those experiences. And so I did want to contrast the Zoom team with one other type of customer. This is, again, a very typical situation is a smaller team. This is Levi Strauss, another customer of ours, and their ServiceNow platform team has about 4 people on the team. So as you can imagine, All of those roles that I mentioned in the Zoom ecosystem exist here. So these jobs still persist, but that means that somebody is playing the role of those other responsibilities. So this is where, again, you can start to really maximize those patterns and build for a job or a way of working in the enterprise experience. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Warren to talk us through the 3 steps towards strategy.
Thank you so much. Let's do this. Good evening, everybody. It's so great to see your smiling faces. It's very rare that I get to hold a microphone in my hand and have an audience in front of me. This must be what Beyonce feels like. And I see why she loves this so much. Now, I will say there are some latency issues potentially with the slides. I put a lot of build into the deck. And so if I'm speaking and you don't see it up there, be patient, it's gonna come. Nevertheless, let's go ahead and kick it off. So, obviously, the goal of this evening is to talk about enterprise UX research, and more specifically, research and strategy within the enterprise, right? And anyone who functions as a researcher at an enterprise software company, or really anybody who functions as a researcher at all, has at some point probably heard their leadership say, I want research to serve a strategic function in the business, or I want our research to be strategic thought partners, helping to guide our product decisions and vision for the future, right? And all of those things are great. That's incredible. I think first and foremost, it showcases our ability to empathize with our users and advocate for their needs. And I think it also showcases our unique ability to dramatically influence product roadmaps through the insights that we elevate and communicate. The problem at times, though, is that we don't always do a great job of communicating to individuals how to become a strategic partner in the business, right? How to become that idealized researcher. I, by no means, am an expert. That's why we've assembled a panel of experts to talk about that. However, I intend to elucidate my thoughts on a 3-step strategy I developed for myself when I first entered into the space to begin to change and shift my mindset, to be more strategic in my thought process and how I approached my research. So without further ado, let's see if this clicker will work, and let's start it off. Did you see how long that took? Be patient. All right, so we have the 3 steps towards strategy in the enterprise. Now, this slide is intended to just give you a brief overview of what we're going to discuss in my short time today, and I want to kick us off by talking through some foundational stuff. This is the baseline for everybody entering into the enterprise space, and that is operational insight or operational knowledge. So when I'm talking about operational things, that's your day-to-day. What are you doing on a daily basis to accrue knowledge? What are you doing on a daily basis to leverage the resources available to you? When I say resources, I mean the human beings that you work with. The unique thing about enterprise research is we have access to so many subject matter experts that are uniquely positioned to educate one another on the needs of our customers, right? And so as we're thinking about that and trying to understand the product space, the competitive landscape, our users, and the push and pull between all of those things, it's important to understand and develop your knowledge network. That wasn't supposed to pop up yet, it was the clicker. So as we're thinking about knowledge networks, it's important to establish connections across the organization to enhance your business knowledge and ensure your research initiatives are appropriately scoped to provide maximum benefit and maximum value. The key takeaway here is we want to develop a holistic point of view for our research. It shouldn't just consider our design counterparts, which it always should. It shouldn't just consider our product counterparts or engineering counterparts, which it always should. It should consider everything that goes into making a product successful, as well as what occurs with our go-to-market strategy and once it's been implemented. Now, the next step is tactical insight or tactical knowledge. And I consider this to be that intermediate range, that mid-range for us. Now, as we're thinking about tactical knowledge, right, you've taken the steps to lay that foundation, you've done the groundwork, establishing your POV, establishing a basic knowledge of the enterprise industry. But now you're gonna dive deep and really focus on the business unit you're responsible for supporting with your research. So the specific product you're researching for, or the portfolio of products that you're accountable for. And as we're thinking about this portfolio, the core question is always, what's the use case? We're gonna emphasize this a few times, and I'll educate you all in a little bit on why use cases are so important. So when I say what's the use case, this is what I mean. You wanna identify the business requirements of our customers to ensure we're providing optimized solutions that will address current pain points and streamline workflows. If we can accurately describe the use case. If we can accurately describe business models, then we can pinpoint the value proposition of our products and understand when to pitch a solution to a customer to help them achieve their goals. If we can't do that, we're just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks. And that is not a good approach. That's not a successful business. Now, the final step is strategic insight or strategic knowledge. So again, you've laid that foundation, you've built out your knowledge network, your peers who have educated you on what's going on in the space. You've also done the work to really investigate and understand your specific product space, the people that you're accountable to in terms of driving product outcomes. And now you're looking across the organization. And what do I mean by that? You're investigating micro-offering connectivity. Now, that's a wordy term. In short, it means how does product A meet the need of a customer, and what needs might those additionally create? And how might there be another product across the organization that can address those additional needs? And how do those two things come together seamlessly to create that UX? Did you see that delay? So again, here, we're looking to highlight the interconnectedness of our platform capabilities across business units to better predict a customer's needs and create that seamless UX. So again, we're thinking strategically. First, we started off by laying that foundation. Then we dove into our specific business unit. Then we decided to zoom out and look across the enterprise or our organization to understand how does one product connect to another to really enhance outcomes for our customers. I see people taking pictures. It's gonna make me cry. Thank you so much. Okie dokie. So again, going back to step one, that is gaining knowledge and context, engaging internal subject matter experts. Again, this is that operational insight that we're striving for. What does a knowledge network look like in the enterprise? I am so happy that you asked me that question. Now, what I'm about to show you is by no means an exhaustive list of all the people that you can partner with within the enterprise. However, it is a list that's intended to show the people that I connected with when I first engaged with Michelle's team for platform security to learn about the space. It was a highly technical space, something that I had never done before, and I needed to learn quickly. And these are the people who helped me to do just that. So first you have the outbound product manager. This individual differs from your typical inbound product manager in that they focus on taking a product to market and driving its growth by supporting sales execution with a focus on multi-customer activities. The next individual is the solution consultant, some of my favorite people in the world, let me tell you. They maintain in-depth technical knowledge of a product space that helps a business to overcome issues, increase sales, and connect better with their customer base. So we have this two-sided coin I like to think of as it pertains to solutions. You have the solution consultants, and on the other side of that coin, you have solution architects that came in. Now, these solution architects support the customer in defining business requirements to determine how the software will operate to solve a specific problem. And again, this example is specific to my experience on Michelle's team with platform security, so of course it wouldn't be complete unless I included some security-specific personas. So first we have the security advisor. Now, these individuals provide consulting support that enables a company to protect organizational assets, capital assets, and proprietary assets. They basically tell you, this is what you got to do to keep your stuff from leaking, guys. Now you have your security analyst, and this is the individual that monitors an organization's networks to detect security breaches and investigate the root cause should one occur. Now, overall, again, this is not an exhaustive list of all the people that you would partner with. This is not an exhaustive list of all the various roles that exist within the enterprise who are subject matter experts. But the unique thing about each and every one of these individuals is one, they have extreme knowledge of their technical space. They can educate you and get you up to speed so quickly. And trust me, they are always happy to talk about their profession and what they do. On top of that, the beautiful part about all of these roles is that in some capacity at our company, they're all customer facing. So what does that mean? That means that they have a pulse on the market. They know what our customers are experiencing on a daily basis. They know about their complaints, their wins, all these things that might take you years to accrue in terms of information, you can get in a matter of weeks by simply talking to your counterparts. That's the beauty of this. So what does this mean for the researcher? It means you need to build a knowledge network. If you're not networking, if you're not connecting with individuals, you're doing yourself and the organization a disservice. So much of our job is social. So much of our reality is socially constructed. And if we can understand that and harness that power, we can have an impact. So as it pertains to building a knowledge network, building relationships with SMEs enables you to gain critical knowledge of the customer, developing that comprehensive POV. Again, it's not just about design needs. It's not just about engineering or product needs. It's about the entire landscape and the opportunities that we can surface to our cross-functional partners to drive truly incredible outcomes. If it's a concept test, what else can we add into the mix to really make this valuable and meaningful to the entire team? Also, involving cross-functional partners early on empowers your stakeholders to see themselves in your research. Now, Warren, what does it mean for somebody to see themselves in your research? I don't know. No, I'm just playing. What it means is when somebody's literally watching your research share out and they see you talking about something that you've communicated with them about previously, maybe it's a critical question that they need answered. Maybe it's something that they see on a recurring basis with customers, and you're highlighting that. They see how they've directly contributed to your research, and they see how they've made an impact, not only on you, but on what our product team is going to do in the future. And that does two incredible things. One, it drives engagement in your presentation. The way that you all have been so graciously laughing at my terrible jokes, that's engagement. And people do that during my presentations all the time, and I'm so appreciative. On top of that, it creates buy-in. And that's what we really want. Because when we have research recommendations and we're able to drive buy-in or create buy-in by helping them to see themselves in the research, that heightens the chance or likelihood that our research will actually land and have an impact on future product strategy. And then finally, ensuring your research is holistically scoped prior to data collection will help you to create evergreen insights. Now, what are evergreen insights? The short term is they're insights with a long shelf life. In the enterprise space, it can be extremely difficult to recruit. I'm sad Abra's not here to speak to that, but she does an incredible job of helping our team out because, boy, it can be tough. We're looking for very specific individuals with very specific technical knowledge, as Michelle touched on. So if a project is taking weeks or even months to complete, why wouldn't we put our all into it to ensure a return on investment, making sure that individuals are coming back to our research on a consistent basis, using it as a single source of truth or North Star? That's evergreen work. I hope I'm doing okay on time. I'm talking a lot. Now, number two, again, is that tactical insight. Driving value for customers, what's the use case? So what happens when product use cases are unclear? Don't worry, don't take a guess. I'll tell you about it in just a moment. But in short, it's nothing good. It's nothing good. Now, here's a direct quote from one of the members of my knowledge network, a solution consultant here at ServiceNow. The customer was directed towards using a multi-instance approach, which would include creating thousands of instances and require administrative upkeep beyond their abilities. Nobody brought up domain separation because nobody really knew what DS could do. I see you laughing, Paul. Now, for the purposes of this presentation today, it's not important to know what domain separation is. Trust me, it's a very technical product. It took me a while to understand. What's important to focus on is this. Our core sellers, our account executives, our solution consultants, they pitched a suboptimal solution to a customer that was well beyond their realm of possibility or capability. And as a result, they missed out on a deal. And it was through no fault of their own. They didn't know that we had another product that could address their needs because they weren't aware of the use cases. They weren't aware of the value proposition. And if you have that blind spot, inherently, we're going to miss out on business. So continuing this conversation, this individual followed up with this statement.
One more.
There we go. Someone who's new to their role as an account executive or a solution consultant, again, our core sellers, might have a hard time wrapping their head around why an MSP would need domain separation. We need to educate them. So what does that mean? That means people who are new to the space, who might not have the same technical background that somebody who's been at ServiceNow for 5 years might have, right, Michelle? They might struggle to understand our products, the use cases, their applicability, and when they should be pitching them to a customer to help them achieve idealized outcomes. That's, again, creating a blind spot. Saying we need to educate them really means research needs to educate them. We need to communicate use cases, value propositions to impact the business. So as I was engaging in research, this is one of the research questions that guided my inquiry. What criteria do ServiceNow core sellers, again, those account executives and solution consultants, use when evaluating a customer's needs? So in layman's terms, how do they figure out what the heck to pitch to these people when they're in a sales cycle? And here is a response to that. It should always be about the business model. I can't stress that enough. For example, corporations with thousands of franchises that all need data to securely flow to one centralized location probably need domain separation. Again, don't focus on what is domain separation. Focus on that top line highlight. It should always be about the business model. If we can determine the business model, we can determine the use case. Then we can determine the value proposition and understand the opportunities to improve the product or bring a new product to life. So what does this mean for the researcher? I hope you all are still with me. We're getting there, I promise. It means you need to define use cases, and this is your key tactical takeaway. So number one, outlining the user's business challenge creates a shared understanding of what the customer is trying to achieve. What is our value proposition? What are we addressing for them? How are we solutioning and solving their issues and entering into that opportunity space? Business use cases provide a lens through which your stakeholders can better visualize your insights. So that's your pain points, your unmet needs, your opportunity areas. If you're contextualizing and couching your findings in these terms, utilizing this framework, it helps them to better digest the material that you're conveying to them. And then finally, clarifying use cases will help teams to avoid pitching suboptimal or flawed solutions that often lead to damaged customer relationships and lost business. Specifically for this product, there were a multitude of occurrences where people had been pitched an opposite solution because nobody knew what domain separation was. They began to mature in their product lifecycle or business lifecycle, and they needed to go back to then install domain separation. Well, the issue was that wasn't enabled. It was a one option or one-time thing. If you either click to opt in or you don't click. And if you don't click, it's going to cost you a lot of money to go back and fix that problem. Our team was able to discuss that and optimize for that solution in terms of one, including an installer for domain separation to help our existing customers, but again, ensuring that within our go-to-market strategy, where we're clearly communicating business use cases and value propositions, so our sales teams during sales cycles didn't miss out on these opportunities again. All right, and finally, again, strategic insight. And this is about creating a seamless UX through micro-offering connectivity. So to recap, we've talked about operational, your day-to-day. We've also talked about tactical and understanding how we can impact the bottom line of a company. Here, we're going to talk about how can we conjoin or make sure two things are flowing together seamlessly. So as we think about creating a seamless UX, you might recall at the beginning I said is basically how does product A and product B come together to create one seamless experience, accounting for an entire workflow for the customer. So we have micro offering number one, or application number one. And this is coming from the customer and industry workflows business vertical. So we have a customer, a large corporation with customers of their own they need to service. And in order to do that, they install customer service management. Now, I promise I'm not trying to sell you all any products right now. I'm about to explain what customer service management is, though. So with customer service management, you can automate your processes and establish real-time visibility into your customers' products and services, providing your service agents with an overview of the customer systems and tools they need to deliver proactive services. So essentially, we're helping to visualize customer data to these service agents so they can proactively account for requests that may come in, thereby cutting down on their ticketing, cutting down on the ticket response time, and making for a better experience for their customers, their end users. Now, you'll notice one of the key things that I brought up in this is visualizing customer data. And any time that you have data flowing into a space, it creates a vulnerability because that data is sensitive. So here's the problem that this creates. Sensitive information is now entering your production environment with no way for agents or admins to identify or protect that data. So while customer service management is optimizing the workflows of our customer success agents, it's also creating a vulnerability for that customer and the customers of theirs. So what can we do to address this? We can step out of our business unit, which is customer and industry workflows, or our workflow vertical, and look across the organization for a potential solution. And this is where Paul and his team comes in. This is where we pitch micro offering number 2, coming from the business vertical of creator workflows. And that is ServiceNow Vault. So you can utilize the ServiceNow Vault set of data security tools to protect sensitive information from unauthorized access, corruption, or theft throughout the data lifecycle. You can apply protections like encryption, secrets management, and data privacy for the redaction and auditing of sensitive information. It is not important for you to know what encryption is, what data privacy is, what the redaction or obfuscation of sensitive information is. What's important to understand is this. Our micro offering, or application number 1, addressed the core customer need, which is providing timely and optimized service to their customers. But it also created need because now we have sensitive information in our customer instance, our production instance. So what can we do to address that? We can look across the organization to find a solution that already exists. And that comes in the form of ServiceNow Vault. So pairing those two things together to account for that entire workflow is what micro offering connectivity and a seamless UX is at its core. Last slide, I promise. What does this mean for the researcher? It means you have to connect the dots to foster collaboration. Let me speak to that a bit more. First, you need to dig deep to understand how a specific micro offering is used to address a particular business requirement and how the user navigates that experience. So if you remember, that intermediate level was tactical knowledge, really diving deep into your business unit, your product portfolio to understand what you offer. That's where this comes into play. But after you've done that, you need to zoom out and gain that strategic insight. Here you're going to zoom out of that individual experience to create a clear narrative that supports how various capabilities come together to serve an entire use case. How does product A create a need? How does product B meet that need? How does product B meet that need? And how do we bring those two things together? And then finally, use your understanding of the customer needs one micro offering may create to drive cross-functional collaboration between teams and unify product strategy. Oftentimes in enterprise research, you'll hear a term. That term is teams are working in silos. That means one hand may not know what the other hand is doing, and that leads to ineffective outcomes for the business. That leads to duplicated efforts, that leads to products and applications that do not work together. We can't have that. So as researchers, it's our responsibility to not only impact the bottom line by communicating very simple use cases, but also to drive collaboration in an inclusive environment amongst teams by surfacing the opportunities for our applications and products to come together. Thank you, everybody.